Dr. William Hite, who is the Superintendent of Schools of Pennsylvania, before he came from Philadelphia. Well, it's almost as good as being Pennsylvania, but he has great experience in this regard because before coming to Philadelphia, he was the superintendent of the Prince George's County Public School in Maryland, which is one of the 25 largest districts nationwide. When we were just talking backstage, I pitched him on this thrilling new educational tool that the National Constitution Center has launched. We've created the best interactive constitution on the web, where the top scholars in America from different perspectives are writing about every clause of the Constitution, both what they agree about and what they disagree about. And the College Board has just agreed to make this the centerpiece of the new AP exams. And I am very excited to work with Dr. Hite to test this out here in Philadelphia. So it's a very exciting tool. We will now hear from Dr. Hite. Let me properly introduce our phenomenal moderator, whose fair-mindedness and substance you just saw. Kristen Graham has won many prizes, in addition to being part of the team that won the Pulitzer Prize, Gold Medal for Public Service, for its investigative work on violence in Philadelphia public schools. That was in 2012. She's also been recognized as one of the most influential Philadelphians on Twitter. Please join me in welcoming Kristen Graham and Dr. William Hite.
Hello again. Hello, Dr. Hite.
Hello, Kristen.
So let's jump right in. I asked this question of the earlier panel. Do you think Philadelphia's school kids are getting a thorough and efficient education?
No.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Expound.
No. And it is oh, by the way, I'm not the superintendent of Pennsylvania, just here in Philadelphia. And a couple of things. Number one, so we've seen some pretty significant revenue shortfalls in the past several years. And unfortunately, just as the last panel was talking about, I was thinking about something that some children shared with me during one of the meetings. And there were children from multiple schools. And there were two children from Julia Masterman. There were two children from Frankfurt. Some of you may have heard the story. There are two children
Magnet neighborhood.
From Edison. So Julia Masterman is a high-functioning magnet school. And it's one of the best in the Commonwealth. Frankfurt is a school up in the Northeast that serves the neighborhood. It's a comprehensive high school that serves pretty much the neighborhood. Edison is a school that also serves a neighborhood, but it's in North Philadelphia on the east side of Broad. Heavy Latino population, all of the factors that are associated with significant poverty and all of those things. And the children were talking about college readiness. And the child at Masterman said that, they could start taking honors classes when they get there in the 5th grade, some of them. When they get to high school, they could take any number of advanced placement courses before the first set of budget cuts. Then it was fewer after the budget cuts, but it was still a significant number. The child from Frankfurt said, "Oh, we have advanced placement too. We have 2 classes and only seniors can take them." The child from Edison looked at me and said, "We don't have honors courses." And so, we were talking
we're not talking AP, we're just saying no honors.
No honors. And so we're not talking, so you said thorough and efficient.
Right.
And it very much depends on where children are and where they live. And unfortunately, in some cases, whether or not they have the criteria to gain entry into a magnet program, or they're lucky enough to be assigned a school by a lottery. And one thing that can't happen in Philadelphia, and should never happen, is for zip code to define destiny for many of our young people and access to that type of programming. So if a child has AP potential, that child should have access to that inside of their school, in their neighborhood. They can always select out and go other places, but that should be available. If a child has proclivity to art or music, those things should be available in the child's school. And that can't be a function of where a child lives and what they have access to. And unfortunately, the budget cuts have exacerbated this problem because other schools, particularly where the schools have been doing very well, those schools are able to find resources within their patrons, their families, business people. They provide for those schools where some of the others that were struggling to begin with are struggling even more to offer just fundamental resources and programs to students.
So you recently announced a plan to introduce dramatic changes to the district. A few school closures, new schools, turning over 3 underperforming schools to charter organization. Talk about the motivation behind this and what you think it will do for Philadelphia's kids.
Yeah, I mean, the motivation behind it is just this. We have a lot of children in schools. In fact, I think about it from the perspective of we have over 200,000 children that are being educated in public schools in the school district of Philadelphia. We have now an accountability framework that provides us information about schools. And if you think about that framework, it runs from, it's red for schools that need the most help, then it's orange for schools that need a lot of help, and then it is blue for schools or green for schools that are actually doing okay, and we want to reinforce what they're doing. And then we have some model schools; those schools are blue, and if you look at that map across the city, you will see multiple neighborhoods where they're only red and orange. And so part of the recommendation is I carry that map in my head. And part of the recommendation is to change many of those schools from red to orange to green and blue. And part of the set of recommendations is looking at a total system and what we can do in terms of providing better opportunities for young people. And some of these things include some new schools, some expansion of school programs that are working, but it also includes having individuals who have proven success in turning around low-performing schools to also have or provide an opportunity for those young people and for those families in those neighborhoods.
Despite the massive financial challenges that have marked your entire tenure in Philadelphia, you have pushed innovation. 3 small new high schools opened in North Philadelphia last year. You're hoping 2 new schools open in the fall. Some say that resources would be better invested in improving the schools you do have, rather than investing in new models. Why do you believe innovation, despite fiscal hardship, is the right strategy for Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean, number one, we've all experienced the fiscal hardship, so that's not
across the board.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has dealt with that. And then the other misnomer is that if in fact we did what we were doing 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it would change the trajectory of the outcomes for our children. When some of our schools are not able to, for whatever reason, to respond to the learner or to the needs of young people. And one of the things I'm trying to do with respect to innovation is really think about those ways that children will learn and learn differently, and learn in a way that prepares them for a future that's going to require them to think, to problem solve, to interact with multiple individuals, to communicate, both in writing and verbally, and to work in a diverse group. And I think one of the things that, as I think about innovation, it is our research and development arm in the district that will inform us as we think about other schools that also may need attention. And so there are a couple of examples here. And I've struggled with the panel that was here before because it was, as it always defaults to, sector. So it's either a system that hasn't been
I'm going to ask you
successful,
about that,
or it's a set of different schools that are in a different sector. And I think one thing that's really important is we have to think about what works in all of those places, and then how do we then implement those things into schools? And it's very much driven by the leader, as someone said during the earlier panel. So it's very much driven by the leader, and the district actually can learn how to provide those flexibilities to other individuals. And so we have a couple of examples. Neighborhood schools that through innovation are doing some tremendous things. One is Andrew Jackson, with the principal that was just designated as the best principal in the country,
Right.
and Lisa Kaplan, and then we have Chester Arthur, we have A.S. Jinks, you have Duckery over.
We're talking schools that educate all kids.
And we're talking
Special ed, English
children
language
in
learners.
neighborhood schools. And then we also have schools like the Workshop School, Science Leadership Academy, and although Science Leadership Academy is a special admit school, it provides us with information about how we can create time for teachers to interact with each other, how to think about the learner as the focal point of everything that they do. So it's a way for the district actually to reinvest its efforts. And here's the other thing, just as a parent, and I'm a grandparent now. So here's the thing as a grandparent. My 3-year-old grandson, actually, if he is looking for information, he takes my phone and he uses his mother's code to try to unlock my phone. But one thing that was interesting is that he was talking about all of these things. He was talking about this bat copter, right? This bat copter. And I was like, what is a bat copter?
But he wants you to buy
and he
it.
calls me GPA, right? He's like, GPA. It's a helicopter with a bat symbol, right? And I said, well, how do you know this? I mean, and so he takes out his mother's phone, he unlocks it because he's watched her do it 100 times, and he just hits the microphone and he says, Batcopter. And all of these links come up
Right.
about that, and he scrolls through the links to learn as much as he can about a Batcopter. He is going to require something very different as in an educational environment than what we're currently offering. And it's incumbent for us to actually begin to think about how we create environments to address his learning needs and the learning needs of all of the other children that we're exposed to. And they can't be sprinting full speed ahead until they hit the schoolhouse door, and then they have to stop because we put all of these constraints. And so the innovation is to find those things that work so that it informs the broader district.
You alluded to this a little bit, but in lean economic times, there's a lot of tension between the charter and public sectors. The mayor said last week that he drew no distinction between charter and traditional public schools. Otis Hackney, in a panel right after, the principal of South Philadelphia High School, said, well, yeah, I see some distinction as a principal of a public school. Do you? And what's the ideal role of charters in the city?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when was the charter law, 1997?
That first charter schools opened in 1997.
Yeah, 1997, and the law hasn't been rewritten since. And so I think that the law was written for innovation and the things that I just talked about, and now it's become almost a second system or a different system. I've always been, since I arrived in Philadelphia, agnostic on the types of schools. I want high quality schools. And I wanted parents and families to have access to high-quality schools in their neighborhood. And so I think that we spend a lot of time talking about sector and not enough time talking about quality and how we know. And one of the things that we have now is a school progress report that gives us information not just about the academic performance and the growth of schools, but also about the climate, about attendance, about college readiness, and all of those things are available. And now we have 92% of the charters actually participating,
Right.
because they could choose not to participate, but we have 92% of them now participating. So for the first time, at least since I've been here, we have a tool where we're able to compare like schools with similar demographics. And so I think that there is no, or should be no distinction if all things are equal. The problem is, with respect to funding, all things are not equal. And every child that then migrates to a charter costs us the following year 30 cents on the dollar
Right.
that we spend on that child. And so we have to fix, the reason I referenced the 1997 charter law is because we have to fix that, because that was designed for very small numbers of charters that would inform a broader system in a broader district. Next year, we will have over 80 charters and over almost 70,000 children. And so that law no longer works for what is now becoming a drain on the children who are left in the system. And then the other thing is the children who don't gain access. And for many of our families, and we've experienced this, for many of our families, the only thing they know is their neighborhood school. And it is, and they know it because they attended that school, and sometimes their family members attended that school as well. And no matter the performance of the school, they attended the school. And so there are individuals in our district who are not going to, number one, access charters, and then number two, gain access to those opportunities. And so my worry is that as that number increases more and more, then we have fewer dollars to educate many of the children who remain in their district. And if we had 10,000 more children go over there right now and take the equivalent of what it would cost for each child, roughly 10,500, and they went over, and then the monies that would be removed from their district would then lower our per pupil costs on everyone who's remaining. And everyone who's remaining, unfortunately, will be more significant. I mean, children with more significant special needs, children who are learning English,
Right.
And their concentrations would be in the neighborhood schools that, for all intents and purposes, will cost us more to educate just because of us being able or trying to respond to their needs.
So the tension is certainly around funding.
Yes.
Let's talk about governance. Philadelphia has a school governance structure unique among the state's 500 school districts. A school reform commission made up of 3 members nominated by the governor and 2 appointed by the mayor. Lately, we've been hearing a lot of discussion about the SRC's future. The mayor recently added his voice to the chorus of those suggesting it ought to be abolished. How much does the governance structure of the district matter to you? What should it be? No pressure or anything. It's just,
I'm just the
we're just chatting.
superintendent. I mean, and well, I think governance, and I haven't talked a lot about governance because whoever governs is those are the individuals responsible for me.
Right, and you've seen a lot of different governance models in your time as an educator.
I have seen a lot of governance models. I've seen appointed, I've seen elected, I've seen elected that have become appointed that have become elected.
My head is spinning.
And in my last district, it was elected. And in the 6 years I was there, I had 27 school board members. So I've seen a variety of those. And I do think that, once again, as I indicated right after the mayor's speech, I mean, fortunately, at least for me, the mayor began that conversation talking about funding and more revenue, and distribute it in a way that provides for a per pupil amount, where it's weighted based on the needs of children. And that has to happen first, because if that doesn't happen first, it really doesn't matter what the governance structure is. If in fact we're spending $3,000 less than we were spending 5 years ago to educate a child, then it doesn't matter what the governance structure is, we're still spending $3,000 less per child.
Right.
And so you have to fix that, and then we can talk about governance. And as now a taxpayer and citizen in Philadelphia, because I do own a home here, then I'm all for local control. I'd much rather be controlled locally, but here the point is, there's not one parent who has migrated from a district school to a charter school, or a district school to an archdiocese school, who said they did it because of the governance structure. They may have done it for something else.
Right.
They didn't do it for the governance structure. So I think that number one, we have to talk about, well, what do we replace it with?
Right.
And then number two, how do we ensure that the funding is sufficient and follows children, so that it is weighted based on the needs that we have here in Philadelphia. More children who are coming from circumstances of poverty, more children learning English, and more children with special needs.
So our time is running short, so of course you've had this funding crisis since you've been here, but imagine for a moment that was off the table, that you had maybe not unlimited funds, but adequate funds to do your job. So dream a little. Where do you make investments? Where are the big priorities?
So a couple of places, and I dream a lot, actually. I've been dreaming since I've been here. Yeah, dreaming that we're going to get money.
Right. It's a good dream.
But yeah, it's more like a nightmare, actually. But it's a couple of places. So number one, I doubled down on early childhood. And I think the universal pre-K is extremely important, because children who start behind tend to stay behind if, in fact, without significant investment. So this notion of pre-K would be very important. I think the other thing is this. So we know how to teach children to read, particularly at the early grades, and it is rocket science. And so the training and development and ensuring that individuals understand how to teach, how to assess first, and then teach children to read is extremely important. And then I'd focus on the high schools. And because not at comprehensive neighborhood high schools, because they're still not at a place where they are serving the needs of families and children in those areas. And 60% of children who attend neighborhood high schools attend high schools out of their catchment area. So 60% of them. They go all over the city, but not to their neighborhood high school. So we have to do something there. And then the fourth one could be the first one. I'd get a teacher contract. And I would acknowledge teachers who have been and who have been committed, passionate, and working hard without what they've needed for the past 3 years. And so it's really important, as I indicated to you, I think on a number of occasions, that their commitment, their passion, their work every day to ensure that our children are successful. It is worthy of some investment, and we have to make that investment this year. And so that's something that I would like to do as quickly as we get resources. We have to get a contract for our teachers.
Great. Well, we could say a lot more, but our time is over. Thank you for the conversation, and thank you all. I'm told that there's going to be about a 10-minute break, so if anyone wants to get up, roam around, feel free to do so, and we'll see you back for the second panel in about 10 minutes.